Welcome. Today we're going to be building a hive stand for a 10-frame Langstroth hive body. Now here's a rough sketch of what I have in mind. Supplies that I'm going to be using on this project are treated 4x4s. I got 2 of them in treated material, and then I have 5 treated 2x6 boards here, and those are also in the 8-foot length. The dimensions of my hive stand are going to be 8 feet long by 20 inches deep, and then we want that 24 inches off the ground. Today I'm going to walk you through how I do this step by step. Now, up until now, I've used cinder blocks to keep my beehives off the ground, and that's worked great. However, I have had more guests coming over to my apiary, and as I continue to progress in beekeeping, I'd like to start mentoring. And this is just a way to kind of dress up my apiary. The supplies I'll be using today are a drill, a tape measure, some deck screws. Here are the specs on what I'm using. And then I'm going to have this green bottom board around just to play around with my dimensions. As you'll see, this is 20 inches long from the back up into there, up to the front. Now I like to have my lip hanging over the edge of my cinder blocks, and when I build this table it's going to be the same thing. I am also going to be using a DeWalt miter saw. I'm sure a skill saw or even hand saw would work just fine. The first step is to cut your legs into 24-inch length. Now for this 8-foot bench or hive stand, I'm going to be using 6 legs. Now that might be overkill. However, next year if the honey flow is on and we have a lot of supers on our boxes, they could weigh several hundred pounds, and I want to make sure that this hive stand lasts next year and many seasons to come. Alright, so I got my lumber cut. I've got 10 2x6s that are 17 inches long. I've got 3 2x6s that are 17.5 inches long, and then 2 2x6s that are 7.25 long. So the first part of the hive stand is complete. The next step is to work from the outside in. However, because we pre-cut all of our lumber, I always get a little more comfortable lining everything up, making sure I didn't make any silly mistakes before I start drilling holes. That's next. Alright, so I have everything laid out. Nothing is screwed in. Now on this, I'm going to work from right to left, and as you can see, these are fitting nice and tightly. Down here, we're having problems fitting that down. I'm not worried about that. Once we get everything buttoned down, it should slide right in there. But by working from right to left or left to right, and this one being your last piece that you drill in, you can shave a little bit off that if you need to. If you start in the middle and work your way out, you risk having loose joints. Now when I'm putting these joints together, I'm going to use clamps in every area that I can just to make sure I'm getting tight seams. Here's an example of how I'm using a clamp here. I'm going to screw in here, and then once that's set, then I'll secure that. Alright, so we're just about finished with assembly. We've got this all right here. My screws, as you can see, I just did 3 on each side. Maybe a little overkill, but I'm hoping this thing lasts 20 or 30 years. So, as I was saying before, the reason you work from left to right is because sometimes this won't work. It won't fit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can pound that in there and make a nice tight seam. If not, I'm going to shave just a little bit off with the miter saw and finish this project off. Alright, all finished up. We got it turned upright. pretty happy with the finished product. So I'm going to put a coat of paint on it, and then it'll be ready to go out to the bee yard. Alright, I let the first coat of primer settle and dry overnight. I went in and got all my nail holes filled, and then I put plugs in for my pocket holes. You can see those right there. And I only use pocket holes on these metal joints. Everything else I just was able to do a 90-degree screw. But a couple more coats of paint and then this will be ready. Alright, here we are. Here's our existing hive that we have up on cinder blocks, and then here is the new hive stand. Now, some people have been asking me questions about why I use 17.5 inches as my cross pieces here, and the reason is it's going to fit a frame easily. So when you're working your hives, you can just set those down in there so you're not having a chance of rolling the queen. The old a squared plus b squared equals c squared, Pythagorean theorem. Anyway, I'm going to install the hive up on the new hive stand, and I'll show you what the finished product looks like. Alright, here's the finished product. I think in total this would be a good fit for 3 hives, and still leave you space to put your frames in these brackets here. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions.